Yesterday, we get North Carolina. Did you ever see Lord of the Rings?
No.
Well, there's a scene in Lord of the Rings where Frodo, the main character, the main hobbit, finally gets the ring to Mordor, where the hot lava is, the volcano, and he drops the ring into the hot lava, and he's like crying, he's beaten, he's dusted up, and he just goes, "It's over." Well, that was Carolina last night with the loss to Virginia, and you could tell, Joe, and I hate to go full body language expert sometimes, but you could tell when Virginia clawed their way back into that game and they started putting that stranglehold on them, that North Carolina just wasn't really about it. There was no switch to be flipped. There was no championship or bust mindset. They looked like a team that had accepted this is it. And it extended itself in the post-game press conference as well. Here's Armando Bacot, North Carolina star. You could come back next.
No, please don't give me the clip that is going to trigger me from the
yeah,
jump.
No, from the jump. Let's go, Joe. Let's go. I'm in my prime time. 10 a.m. is your prime time. 3 o'clock's my prime time. Let's go. So here's Bacot on why he thinks this season didn't live up to expectations.
Really, the story of this year was just talking about last year. I feel like that's kind of all we heard from y'all, stuff we look back on. I think it was just overdue, long hangover.
Stuff that we heard from y'all? What? I'm sorry, did we ask North Carolina to have a summer press conference where they're saying they were running it back and it was championship or bust? Was it us that, did the whole story again of putting the picture of, the Reliant Stadium and here we go, run it back. It's just like 2017. It's just like 2009. They got the SI cover, with Hubert Davis and the crew. That wasn't y'all. That was you. And that kind of mindset, I think it helps explain why North Carolina is in the position that they're in this postseason.
North Carolina was a flawed team with little margin for error on a game-by-game basis. And without Brady Manick, they were a team that needed all of their stars to be their best players. That's asking a lot over the course of a season. To your point, though, about when would the spark happen? When would the switch come on? For me, when they didn't kill State in Chapel Hill, I raised an eyebrow.
You did.
They won the game, but I was like, interesting.
You should put the hammer down on State. That's what you do.
That is what you always do.
That's what Carolina does, man.
in their building.
Yeah.
Then the Pitt run it back game where they got pushed around in their building. I was like, ooh, something's amiss here.
Yeah.
And then crystallized by not winning in Durham. That was February 4th. And you declared them dead on February 7th when they were listless for large portions of the Wake Forest game. In fairness to you said from the very beginning of this season, are we sure this wasn't just a team that caught fire, caught an all-time spark and heater based on winning a game that, quite frankly, had a historical significance?
It did.
Beating Mike Krzyzewski and Cameron Indoor Stadium. To have 4 of those starters back, though, from a team that lost in the national championship, that is not a media creation.
Yeah.
That is, we have 4 starters back from a team that was this close to winning the national championship. That doesn't happen in college basketball anymore.
No.
Where you get 4 starters back. I will give some grace to Armando Bacot because this has been a difficult season for them. And my dad likes to remind me that one of the things that Bill Parcells always warned in the 80s, the Giants, when he was in the true media cauldron, the real New York cauldron, when Parcells would be asked, well, you'll be back next year. And he would always say, the next season doesn't start where this one ended. You guys have no idea what it takes to get to this part, to get to the end, to get to the Super Bowl. It takes so much work. And unfortunately for Carolina, they learned the hard way that Parcells, as usual, knew what he was talking about.
And I guess the part that would be maddening for Carolina fans or even folks in the media who've been around Carolina for a long time, you've seen teams do that work. 08 to 09.
Oh, to have the singular purpose, to have the drive, to have the leadership. And I guess that's what was missing this year for Carolina was that leadership.
It was the leadership.
Armando Bacot's not a vocal leader. RJ Davis is not a vocal leader. Caleb Love is mercurial. He does have and I know it's hard to compare him to someone and not have all of the other baggage, but he really does remind me of a Rashad McCants in a way that, man, when he was on, super talented. But when he was off, he could sink the whole ship, man.
Yep.
And you saw that. You saw that on a game-to-game basis. And unfortunately for North Carolina, they never had that emergence of a Puff Johnson. Pete Nance, would flash here and there. Obviously, the Virginia game at home was a moment, but for the most part, it just didn't happen. And it's interesting to juxtapose what Carolina did this year with what Duke did this year. Duke had no expectations. And while I'm giving you credit for calling a shot, I'll give myself credit for calling a shot. That at the ending for Mike Krzyzewski was actually a really good thing.
Yes, it was
for Jon Scheyer.
Yes.
Now, the work that Jon Scheyer had to do to give you the performance that Duke had yesterday, that was not a snap your finger. That was not a light switch on. That was a season-long progression. And you're seeing a team find themselves. I can't remember. I think it was Doc Kennedy who said, one of our friends on Twitter, North Carolina was the same team on March 10th as they were on November 10th.
Yeah.
Like
they never changed.
They never changed. They never progressed. They never got better. It was always the same formula. Is Love going to be on? Is Davis going to be on? Is Baycott going to be on? Well, if they're not, good luck trying to beat a good team. And they couldn't.